Hello YouTube, Merry Christmas. Cockatoos are crowing, the orchard's growing, and it's Christmas 2022, so Merry Christmas, especially to all the people who subscribe to my channel and who follow me on this journey year to year. This is one of my favourite regular episodes to make, my macadamia baby parade, in which I take all of the baby macadamias I'm experimenting with in my orchard and rate them in terms of their growth performance and general tree health. It's not always an indicator of how they're going to perform as adults, but it's something where, you know, as part of my journey, I'm filling up gaps in the orchard, and particularly in block 1, which I'm in now, I'm experimenting with a number of different varieties. So I've got 11 in total to get through. I'm ranking them from the lowest to the highest, so let's get on with the show. Number 11, dead last again, but, you know, showing some signs of life, is variety G. And look, there's a little bit more vigour in them this year than there was when I sort of looked through my video last year. A lot of these trees have been, in fact, a lot of my babies generally have been affected by leaf miner this year, something I'll probably have to spray them for because it really is debilitating some trees. But this is one of the better examples of variety G, showing, yeah, look, some signs of growth, not bulking up in the trunk too much, but really quite weak still compared to what I was expecting. So poor old G, last again for 2022. Let's see how you do next year. And a very tentative number 10, might be a little bit mean on the poor old thing, but this is 741. Hasn't been as long in the ground as it has been in a pot. It was one of my $6 specials. I got a few 741s. Didn't review them last year because I thought it was a little bit too early. Yeah, look, they're certainly tough. They haven't put on a lot of growth yet, though, and I'm waiting to see, you know, some better performance. As you can see, this one's been in the ground a few months. It's got some baby leaves, hasn't really done very much despite a reasonably generous feed. So watching this one closely, mightn't stay near the bottom for long, but that's number 10 for this year, 741. Now this fella here is P. Looks like it should be much higher up the list than number 9, doesn't it? Great big leaves, a bit of healthy growth at the tips. Seems to be more resistant than average to leaf miner, although I'm not sure, maybe this one just got lucky. Look, the reason it's down in the list is that it came to me from my nurseryman Tim Hills as a bit of a giant, and you would have expected a little bit better performance than this, you know, having been so long in a pot at a nurseryman's place. It is making progress, you can see from the light green flush, but just not, you know, getting too far towards that sort of flowering and fruiting stage, which it really sort of should be by, I suppose, next season. Again, you know, it's got some signs of hope, so I'm not writing this one off as a bad choice, but yeah, one to watch. Very, very close to P, coming in at number 8, is 842. I got a few of these as sort of $6 specials. This is one I planted as a regular tree a little bit before that. Look, I don't mind it. It's got some sort of good widespread growth around the tree. It's on a little bit of an angle, which I sort of need to fix probably, but it's got some good healthy growth. It seems to be quite resistant to leaf miner, and you know, I like the shape that it's sort of going into. So yeah, not too bad really, and I think it's got some promise, but yeah, hard to tell still. And we need to give it another year before we can give it a more solid rating. So there we go, number 8, variety 842. Number 7 for this year is variety R. This is one of the better ones I've got growing in block 1, and it's also what I've planted newly in my new block because of its, you know, desirable traits and what I think is going to be a good performing tree. Particularly in the Northern Rivers region of New South Wales. It's still one of the recommended ones for this area. It's getting better. You know, it's certainly putting on some growth. It seems reasonably resistant to leaf miner, or at least this specimen does, although others of the babies are really being attacked right now. I guess I'm not deducting points from the tree for that resistance or lack thereof, but this one's certainly performing strongly, sending up some good bushy growth that can use to build some further growth down the track, and importantly the trunk is bulking up nicely as well. So variety R, number 7, possibly on its way up next year, but let's have a look. On to the next one. Number 6 for this year is variety J. Quite an upright specimen, this one, but it certainly knows which way to grow, which is up. Good big leaves, which is a characteristic of J. Leaf miners attacking the tips, as you can see right there. But look, in general, it's a good, healthy tree. It's, always been a bit lowly rated among my choices. This one started very big in the nursery, so it's not like it's grown from a baby. But unlike variety P, it's really piling on the growth, and look, reasonably impressive. Certainly no flowers or any sign of fruiting, even though it's meant to be one of the precocious new varieties, but an impressive growing tree. So that's where it fits. Now this fella, it's the only tree I've given a name to. I call this one Garth. This tree is my oldest A38. I got a couple of more recent plantings, but the one I bought, this unlike the J you've just seen, is actually one I've grown from a baby, and so its growth and progression is very impressive. It's known as a very, very upright tree, and it's certainly living up to that reputation even as a young plant. Quite vigorous growth, strong leaves, strong stems. That's going to be one to watch. It's not overly precocious as a bearer of nuts, but a very, very strong grower, and noticeably better than a few of the newer varieties like, G, R and P, for excellent healthy growth. So yep, I'm well deserving of number 5 this year, the A38, and I'm going to look forward to monitoring its progress over the next few years. Coming in at number 4 for the 3rd time running, sounding like a broken record, I think, MCT1. Never can get past number 4, but look, it's a good tree. It's bushing out beautifully. You can see some decent spreading sideways growth, not just the upright growth you see on some other varieties. Those leaves are spreading out there to catch the sun. You can see it building solid trunks. I've got a whole block of these, so the performance isn't 100% consistent, although you've seen some cows wreck some of them, and leaf miner has really attacked some of the leaves. So the performance isn't, always the same with MCT1, and I suppose it loses a few points for consistency. But there's just some examples where, for example, there's amazing stem and shoot growth on this particular one, that's growing a little more upright. And, you can see some similar growth on this one next to it. But look, overall, I've given it number 4. It's certainly up amongst my top varieties. And you'd hope that perhaps next season we might get a few flowers and nuts. But, no sign of flowering this particular year. It's a precocious variety, so, you never know your luck next season. But yeah, despite big attacks from leaf miner, it seems to be struggling on pretty well. I like the MCT1, and it's a very widely planted variety, so I hope other farmers like it as well. All right, coming down to the last 3. This one is number 3. It was number 1 last year, the 246. The original granddaddy of them all that allegedly sort of kick-started the industry in Hawaii and then Australia. And you can see why. It's the classic spreading big macadamia tree. We've got growth all over the place, lots of, solid trunk growth, a really vigorous tree, putting on flush after flush after flush in this rainy weather. Not too worried by the leaf miner and insects. It just keeps growing new material. and it's a reasonably consistent performer as well across several 246s that I have. It's hasn't dropped its place really from any lack of merit. It's grown very well. It's just that a couple of others have sort of clawed their way past this year. But gosh, great tree. Still one of the originals, one of the best, the 246. Now, I almost gave a joint first this year, but number 2 again, I've decided to choose the 788. At a recent AusMac conference, I asked a South African director of SAMAC what he thought of this variety, and he said it's the prettiest tree they grow in South Africa. It's quite a common variety there. Wasn't taken up in New South Wales, although I think it should have been. The tree is now well over my head, flushing growth all over the place. So, you know, my head height is about, you know, here on the tree, and that's how much further it goes. And it's no older than a lot of the other babies you've seen here. That's just how vigorous it is. Now, it is a very upright tree. It doesn't like spreading too much, so you can actually plant them a little bit more densely if you want to. I'm sure it will run into height issues eventually. Certainly no signs of fruit, although there were 1 or 2 flowers this year. The only reason I didn't give it outright first is that 1 or 2 of the other trees haven't been quite as consistent with that one. But 3 out of the 4 that I'm growing are very, very strong growers, and yeah, I think deserving of its place. And now finally, the winner for 2022. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the 835. Not really grown, lost from cultivation except from a couple of growers in Queensland, as I understand. The highest whole kernel nut that you can grow, and its heritage includes 246 and some of the forefathers, I think, of 660, judging by genetic testing that's been done on that variety. It's got number 1 this year because of its absolute consistency. It's as big growing almost now as the 788s. So, you know, my head height is here, and above that you can see the growth in that tree. And it gets repeated consistently. There's another one there. Right mix of spreading and upright, not too dense growth. So there's enough light in amongst the trees for each of these branches to flourish. It seems to laugh off leaf miner. Got very thick, strong, rustly leaves. They're unique leaves from macadamia. They're very, very rigid. And I don't know if that makes them more resistant to leaf miner. I don't think it does, but the tree just seems to laugh off everything. It's been through the same tough weather conditions as the rest of my orchard, but in terms of genuine progress made over the last year across a large number of these trees, well, in terms of relative to my normal sample, I've got about 12 of these. Every single one of them is doing really, really well. So for consistency and performance this year, 835 has climbed to the top. And it's a variety that I think should probably be more widely grown, particularly for its whole kernel characteristics. But according to the nurseryman who supplied them, Marco Prenzel, they're a very heavy cropper in the mature trees on his orchard up at Wolvie, and probably needs a bit more testing in New South Wales. But yeah, can't wait to see it. Now, for all of the running around I did, there is one tree that's got nuts. One of these 835s has nuts, but for driving around this morning, I couldn't find it for you. I'll bring that to you in a future episode. But for now, Merry Christmas. Congratulations, 835. I hope you all have a very safe time over the break. Catch you in the new year, and we'll have some more fun. Again, thanks to those who followed me in my journey. It's great to have you along. Bye for now.